Hey guys, so you might have seen me post on Twitter that I went to the Detroit Regionals past weekend, which was the first weekend, other than the UDS last weekend, that was like new format. So you have KS Impact Legal, you have the new ban list, all that kind of stuff. No Nightmare Mermaid or anything along those lines. I didn't really know what to expect too much. I did expect Thunder Dragons to be very popular, the pure version, not the combo version. I expected Orcus to be by far the most popular deck, both the pure Orcus variant and the Lunalight variant. So those were like the expected matchups. I didn't think Skysticker would be played that much. We saw at the UDS that at least two of the people that topped that event were playing Sky Strikers, but those were like some of the best players in the game, so I thought that the average Sky Striker player probably wouldn't play the deck anymore after Widowmaker went to 1, and I think that pretty much stayed true. I didn't see a lot of Striker decks at the top tables, but I got second place, which was really exciting. My only loss, some people don't really understand because like it looks like 2nd through 8th, it's all technically like the same record. We're all like X1 or whatever, but I think I got second place, or at least the top 4. I think all those people lost to the first place winner, so 2nd through 4th. I know that the 4th place lost to the first place guy, and that's who I lost to as well. He's playing True Dracos. I'll put my matches on one of these sides here. I played mostly against like Thunder and Orcus and Luna Orcus, not too many rogue decks, other than that True Draco deck that just completely destroyed me. That guy was like really good though. He was one of the best, probably the second best True Draco player that I've ever played against, right behind like Chester Henson, who obviously is insanely good because he won the NAWCQ a couple of years back. But anyway, I played Altergeists because Altergeists just rips apart Thunder Dragons. It has a good Orcus matchup. Even going second against Thunder, especially, you can just like bounce their Titan back to their hand, bounce their Colossus back to the hand. So I thought that this deck would just be really good against the meta. Anytime a new format comes around, I like playing a back row deck just because a lot of people, when a new format comes around, they don't really have a lot of like back row destruction in their decks. People had Cosmic Cyclones, but I didn't see a lot of evenly matches, didn't see a lot of reboots, so that's why I played this deck. But anyway, without further ado, let's get right in the profile. So we have 3 copies. Oh, we have the IP mat here, not IB, IP Masquerade mat here, the new regional mat, which is pretty cool. First weekend that I was out. But we have 3 copies of Marionetter, 3 copies of Mulseek, 2 copies of Silk, 1 copy of Faker, 1 copy of Concrete, the standard lineup. I was going to come up with like a fun fact for all these cards. I don't really have one, but my one fun fact about Mulseek is that this card is not a once per turn descend, so if you have multiple copies on the field, which definitely can happen if you like ended your turn with like multi-Faker Mulseek, and then you drew like a Mulseek for turn, you can summon this one, switch this into attack, and then attack with both of them and take out 2 cards. A lot of people do not realize that, so you'll like inflict the damage with the second one, and then they'll be like, okay, and then you choose the card you're going to send, and they just had like no idea that was happening. So that's a really good thing to keep in mind with this card. Other than that though, these cards, I think you guys, if you've watched a lot of these deck profiles, know how these cards work, so I won't explain them too much. The one really bad card I played, this card is so bad, Sangan. Yes, it's the second time that I've played it, and yes, I keep saying it's bad. Yes, it is still bad. I have yet to summon this card ever. I've played it now. I played it at the UDS as a 1-of. I played at this event as a 1-of. I was really struggling to come up with I usually say the 40th card, but I was struggling to come up with like the 39th and the 40th card. Sangan just ended up being that, and I don't really have like too many great reasons. It's just when I was thinking back to like Portland and the regional that I played at as well, both of which I didn't use Sangan for. I was thinking that like, okay, when was I losing games? Like, what were some games that I just like couldn't win? And they were the games where I didn't draw any monster cards. I draw like a bunch of trap cards, and what's cool about playing a trap deck, by the way, is that if you like brick, you still end on like 3 or 4 negates, where the other like combo decks, if they brick, they don't end on any negations. So that's like one of the main reasons to play a trap deck. So I just thought like the Sangan, you know, the hands where you draw Sangan and it's good, like you literally had no other way of possibly winning that game. So I just wanted to play like something that would help me win those games that otherwise would be unwinnable. Never summon it though. I drew it about 3 or 4 times, and I like, it's always the worst normal summon in your hand, but I don't know if it's like another card that it could be besides exactly like the second copy of Multi-Figure, like a 4th copy of Spoofing or Mulseek, or those cards. So you probably don't need to play it because it's terrible and never summon it in the 2 tournaments that I played it at, but it's in there just for moral support, even though the card itself kind of sucks. And then lastly, 3 Ash Blossom. Surprisingly, I actually wasn't going to play any monster hand traps, and I'm a little surprised that I even played the Ash. I just turned out to be like too good against the rogue decks, and a lot of times you can just like Ash someone, just like end their turn. There was like round 1, I Ashed a 1-for-1, and then the guy just passed, and I just killed him basically. I mean, I guess in OTK him or whatever, but I set like 5 back row, and it's like the Ash Blossom just like lets you win games that you shouldn't win, because a lot of times when the combo decks draw really well, the Ash doesn't really do anything, but if they draw like kind of subpar, if you just like Ash their one big effect, a lot of times they'd have just have to pass turn. And because Orcus doesn't have Mermaid anymore, if they don't draw both of the Orcus Nightmare and the Harpour, and you just Ash Blossom whichever one they did draw, and got to the graveyard or whatever, or like maybe they sent with Armageddon Knight, a lot of times they just have to pass with no negates, and at that point you can just capitalize and just break their entire board with the Mullseek, set up a bunch of background. They just can't push through that because Orcus is kind of tough going second if they draw like the insane hand, but even then, like if all they end on is a crescendo, like you usually can just break that board pretty easily. But especially if they don't get to set up anything, so you don't even have to use like the Compulse on the Galatea or the Dingirsi or whatever. If they don't have any setup and you went second, so you have the 6 card, even though you like Ash them, that is just so strong. I just can't. There's so many times at this tournament where like my opponent just like made one play and I Ashed it or impermanent it and they just passed and they just couldn't deal with like all the Altergeists cards. A lot of decks right now, if they don't have like the twins in hand, the reboots, they just can't push through the back roads like way too tough. So I did play the Ash Blossom. I considered playing both Ghost Bell and DD Crow were in this deck at some point, but I cut them for the Sangan, which sucks, but the Ash was pretty good. For the spell cards, we have 3 Extravagance and 2 Duality. I've been playing these for a while. Yeah, I guess the Duality like conflicts with the Sangan, but everything conflicts with Sangan because this card sucks, so that's not really new. I didn't want to play 1-for-1 because I thought a lot of people would be playing Ash. Not a lot of people were though. The Lunalight deck doesn't play it, the Thunder Dragon deck doesn't play it, the Pure Orcus deck plays it, but like that, they don't always draw it. So these cards always resolved. It's fine. I don't even think the Extravagance got Ashed 1 time, so it was really good. I didn't see this card very often in the early rounds, but I saw it pretty often in the later rounds. So I was pretty lucky. And obviously, I don't know if it's even worth saying, but the banishes on this card like just don't matter at all. I see people when they think their opponent has an Ash Blossom like banishing 3 cards like just in case, and it's like it just doesn't matter. Just banish 6 every time. I don't know why that's like so hard, but it's just you just banish 6 every time. It doesn't matter. For the trap cards, of which there's a lot of them because it's a trap deck, so we have 3 Spoofing, 2 Protocol, 1 Manifestation. You already know these are just kind of the standard cards here. I will say I'm trying to think of these Altergeist fun facts here. I will say fun fact with the Manifestation is that I think it's usually incorrect. This is going to sound wild, but I think it's actually usually incorrect to do the Manifestation Chainlink 1, Spoofing Chainlink 2, shuffling it back. Having the Manifestation in graveyard means that you can just continuously recycle it with this thing, and that actually ends up being easier sometimes than setting it with the Marionetters. So I think that's kind of like something that maybe I don't know, I'm just trying to think of, I watch a lot of Altergeist players that are playing at regionals, and I'm trying to think of like the plays that I'm doing that they're not doing, and I think that that's like one of them. So if your engine's going, just let this go to grave, because the Protocol is going to stay on field for the most part, but the Manifestation, you can just keep recycling it with the Silk, and it gives you something to add back, and that's really important too, because one of the big combos that you do is when you send Silk and Hexia to the grave at the same time, and if you don't have the Manifestation engraved or something engraved to grab, then you can't chain block the Hexia from the Ash, but if you do have something engraved, you can do the Hexia Chainlink 1 and then the Silk Chainlink 2 to chain block the Ash Blossom, because the Ash Blossom and the Hexia really hurts. So that's why, I guess it's like a little fun fact here, you don't always have to shuffle back the Manifestation with the Spoofing. A lot of times it's just better to leave it in the graveyard to add back with the Silk. Played all 7 of the Solemns, so we have 3 copies of Solemn Strike, 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, and 1 copy of Warning. I think a lot of people still are not on the Warning train right here, but this card is just so strong. The life points doesn't matter at all. I know this looks like we can pay 20,000 life points here. It doesn't really matter. There was even a game where I Judgmented, so I went to 4,000, Warning, so I went to 2,000, and then I flipped Imperial Order, and I won that match and game and then match with just 300 life points. So like you don't need life points. You have to remember. So a lot of people like are worried about like the life point thing. You can block like 3 attacks per turn as long as you have like your engine going, and I think a lot of people just like forget about this. So people are like, oh, I don't want to lose all these life points. So a lot of times you can get to the setup where you have this and you have a Concrete in hand, and that blocks like 1,000,000 attacks. So Link Revo blocks an attack, the Concrete blocks an attack, then you can bounce it back and block a 3rd attack. So you really shouldn't just be like losing to life points. When you're losing with this deck, you should be losing to like your opponent is having like a huge board that you can't do anything about. So the life points don't matter at all. These cards are just so powerful. You can use them against normal summons. Like the Warning's really cool too, because a lot of times you like Judgment a normal summon for like tempo if your opponent is down to no cards, and it's just a lot better to just Warning it instead. So I don't know if this card is always good. It's not good in the formats where there's like huge combo decks setting up like 7 negates on the first turn, because it does nothing going second, unlike these cards, which are actually really good going second. But for right now, the Order Cycle only ends on 1 negation, so you can afford to play cards like Warning even going second, and then if they like if they try to summon anything, you can just like Warning it, which is obviously what the card does. But a lot of players will try to consolidate their monsters like in a Phoenix and stuff when you have a bunch of back row, and you can just use like warning. And what's really cool about that, and you can do this with all 7 of these cards, but when your opponent summons a Phoenix and Orcus and they don't have the Harp Horror engraved, they don't have the Orcus Nightmare engraved, don't even wait for the effect to activate, just solemn the summon so they can't potentially discard a Harp Horror, discard a Nightmare, Orcus Nightmare card. That's like a play that I see some people just like, they want their opponent to lose cards, but if they don't have a setup graveyard, they like really need that discard a lot of the time. So that's it for the Solemns. For the normal trap cards, we have 3 Infinite Impermanence, obviously like a really good hand trap. I don't think I ever drew Impermanence Faker the whole tournament. I'm keeping track of that. I think I've drawn it like 3 times in the last like 2 months. 3 copies of Compulse. This is the best trap card right now, and apparently like other people knew about this as well, because the guy that won the YCS London was playing 3 copies of this in Striker even. So this card is insane. What's really cool about Orcus from the perspective of someone playing Compulse is that they just summon Galatea and then you just Compulse it, and they're like, oh, I guess I lose now. And what's really cool about that as well is like, even if they have a skeleton grave, like the Galatea is back in the extra deck, so they can't actually revive it. So it makes sense. I think Compulse is going to go like way up in popularity after the YCS and after this past weekend, once people realize like how strong the card is. And then, so I said that the Sanguine was like the 39th card. The 40th card was Trap Trick. I don't know. It's it's just like a card that's like a filler card. So I don't play the 2 manifestation, so you can. It's basically just like a 4th copy of Compulse or a 4th copy of the Impermanence. It's specifically good with the Impermanence to put it in the column of like a Pendulum Zone or something. But it's just honestly like I only drew this card once, and it was fine. It could have been like anything. It probably should have been like a Lost Win. Lost Win's really solid. Yeah, the Sanguine and the Trap Trick both were almost Lost Wins, and I think that probably would have been better considering I didn't really need these cards for what they were. Trap Trick, I guess, has the slight advantage post side decking. You can set some side deck cards too, but I don't know. It's like it's an okay card. If I wasn't playing Extravagance, this would just be Upstart Goblin. It's slightly better than Upstart Goblin because you actually get to pick what you draw, but I think the Upstart would be pretty good. But Upstart Goblin unfortunately conflicts with the Extravagance. I never want that to happen. So these cards are both fine, but I think if you were to play this deck again, these 2 cards could be literally anything, and you could possibly have a slightly better deck on your hands. That's just like one thing to consider. But I did play the 1 copy of Trap Trick. I had a build when I was playing the 0 hand trap build. I was playing 3 of this, but I just didn't want to do that, so that's whatever. Last card is the Imperial Order. It's really good. I forgot to mention the most important thing, the combo that I did so many times that people were always like, what is happening? The play that I did probably 6 times in the tournament, and every single time it instantly won me the game, is if you Compulse your own Multi-Faker back to your hand, it triggers the Multi-Faker, so that's insane. So like, I would start my turn and I would have like Compulse and the Multi-Faker and the Silk or something, or a Mulseek if you like really drew well, and like that's not really like a play by itself because like it doesn't really do anything. But if you have the Compulse face down, you can Compulse the Multi-Faker and then it triggers, and then you can special summon the Mulseek from your deck, and then you have like full combo there. Like, I know full combo sounds dumb if you don't play Altergeists, but it is full combo because then you go use these 2 for Hexia, Search Marionetter, and then just like kill your opponent. It's insane. So if you're playing Compulse, that's one of the main reasons you should play this card over Crackdown, is because you can Compulse your own Multi-Faker and trigger its effect. Really solid ability there. That was really cool. Hopefully that ruling won't change. It shouldn't change. It's basically the same exact logic of adding the Multi-Faker with spoofing and then immediately triggering it. Trigger effects don't actually have to see the card being activated. So even though the Faker is on the field when the Compulse activated, as long as it's in the hand when it's resolved, you can then activate it. So that play is insane. I need to make sure to mention that because that's one of the main reasons that Compulse was so strong at this particular event, just beyond the other uses for the card. So for the extra deck, pretty straightforward here. We have the 3 copies of Hexia, the 3 copies of Link Rebo, the 3 copies of this terrible card. I mean, like, I just never want to banish. So the only way, I don't know, I just never want to get a situation when I have the Mulseek or the Sanguine and I like Extravagance and then I don't have a way to trigger those cards. So if you play the 3 copies of Link Rebo and the 3 Almirages, I don't know what the actual math is for banishing all 6 of these cards for your 6 banishes, but it's probably pretty hard to do. Never really happened before. I have, when I only played 4 of these cards, I have banished all 4 of them, and that cost me a match. So if I had the extra deck space, and if you're not playing Crackdown, you don't need to play like Dingirsu or the Hayate or whatever. So I don't know, like none of the extra deck cards in this deck matter except for these 9 cards anyway, so you might as well just like max out on all of them if you're not playing Crackdown. If you're playing Crackdown, it's a little bit harder, but those cards were like the main cards. But I guess we played some other cards here. So we have the 2 copies of Prime Banshee. I've been playing 1 for a while, but no Crackdown, no Super Poly, no What was the other card? Oh, no Chimera decks, because that deck's not like a thing anymore, even though I did play against Cyber Dragon, but not against Cyber Dragon. So I just played the 2 Prime Banshee. You can do some cool stuff with this card where you, if you have like Hexia and then like 2 Altergeist monsters, you can like make a Prime Banshee, search something with Hexia, and then you make a Hexia with the Prime Banshee, and then you get to add back a card with the Prime Banshee. That's kind of cool. It gets in a situation sometimes nowadays when you want to add back like Conquery and Multi-Faker, and you can only add back like 1 a turn, or you can like revive one with a manifestation. So a lot of times the Prime Banshee comes up that way. It might seem silly like using a Link 2 and a monster to make a Link 3, and then using that Link 3 for the same Link 2 you just made, but adding back a card is like really strong. For the last 4 cards that I never made, there they are. Avermax is kind of cool. You can make it with like Hexia and 2 Altergeist monsters. The main problem with these cards is that like every single turn once your engine is going, you're summoning Multi-Faker on your turn and your opponent's turn, so you can just never summon these cards. The Cerberus is in here specifically just to out the Nibiru token, which can be kind of tough sometimes. That only came up at a regional when I didn't play the Cerberus, but it hasn't come up since I've been playing Cerberus. Usually you can just Mole-Seek it. That's the extra deck though. Yeah, just like a lot of random garbage because no Super Poly or Chimera tech. For the side deck, we have 3 copies of Nibiru. This could have been a lot of things. It could have been GD Crow. It could have been Lancia. I just felt that this card let you win games that like you shouldn't win. This like I just like against Thunder especially, they'll just summon like 8 times. They'll use all of their cards, all their resources, and then they say pass, and you just go, wait a second, I'm gonna Nibiru you, and like you just win those games. That happened. It's not that good against like Luna Orcus because it just adds a thought you, but sometimes it goes off. And I think with the Luna Light deck, which I played 2 of, I think the main goal is just to like make sure they can't end on like the full combo. If you can just like make them just end on like the Orcus combo, then like it's a lot better for you to actually play through. The Nibiru actually did win me the final match, like the match to get second place. It was the 3rd game of that match, and like he summoned 4 times, and he had a Galatea and 2 back row, one of which is Crescendo, and he was like sitting there debating. He was a good player too, but he was like sitting there debating about should he like summon more, and then like I saw him pick up the Wonder Wand in his graveyard to banish it, and I was like, oh man, here it comes. So like he summoned he banished, and he made a couple more plays, and then like before he ended his turn, I just Nibiru'd him, and he just like my hand was insane anyway. It had like Extravagance, Duality, Mole-Seek, Nibiru and stuff, so he probably would have lost even if he didn't do the 5th summon. But that game, I mean, like it was so easy because of the Nibiru, where like Lancia probably wouldn't have made that big of an impact, and even the DD Crow wouldn't have made a big of an impact because he had the Harpour and the Orcus Nightmare, but the Nibiru just like instantly won that, so that was really cool. So I like that card a lot. And then we have so I think that the reason that Skystakers won YCS London was because no one was respecting them, and I wasn't respecting them before the regional. I was not going to play this card still, but I figured it's pretty good going first against like Salad or like Orcus, because they side in the Twins, they side in the Cosmics, and all those cards that just like kill you. But if I did play against Striker, I'd still have these in there. Striker you can kind of beat with the Solemns sometimes, but it's just so cool to have a card that just like instantly wins that matchup. I don't really feel like you need Floodgates to beat the other decks. You'll notice there's only one other Floodgate in the entire, well, I guess the order, but that's kind of like under the same category here. But in general, like the monster decks, you don't need to draw Floodgates to beat, you just need to draw like regular trap cards. But against Striker in particular, like if they just have 3 engage, I mean, kind of like the finals of the YCS London, if they just have like multiple copies of engage, you just can't win the game. So you just need a card to prevent that deck from playing, otherwise they'll just like kill you. And then the next card is 3 Evenly Match, and I guess I'll also put the 3 Heavy Storm Duster. So I usually don't respect other back row decks, but I thought because it's a new format, I'd play a lot of them. That didn't end up happening. I only played against True Dracos and the Cyber Dragon deck, which played a lot of back row. These cards are okay. The Duster was really good against the Cyber Dragon opponent, who had lots of trap cards, and I drew the Evening against True Draco, but I was already losing that game. Really unfortunate scenario there. I was really trying to get the first place, but I unfortunately played really bad against a True Draco player with this card, actually, where he had 2 Monarchs Erupt and a Tribute Monster, and I was like resolving a Faker in hand because I had a Protocol face up, and I when I activated the Faker, he activated their Commune Only 1, and then I chained the Heavy Storm Duster to pop their Commune Only 1, and then his other face down, and the other face down ended up being a True Draco spell card, which then popped the Protocol, so the Multi-Faker couldn't resolve, which was really sad, and I instantly lost the game. So that was like the one time in the tournament that I got really greedy with this card, and it cost me the game. But overall, these cards are like pretty good. I'm glad I respected the back row decks because I think in the early rounds, especially, not having these types of cards can be really hard at regionals, just just because you have no idea what you're playing against. If I played against like Guru Control, which won the PPG the new format PPG a couple weeks ago in Columbus, I wanted to have like these cards against that deck. And then the last card, which is a Floodgate, technically is Summon Limit. Like I said, I don't think you actually need this card to beat the big monster decks. I only drew it one time, and it was good, but I think I would have won that game regardless. This is really just because the Lunalight Orcus deck is so scary in the hands of like a good pilot, and especially in the hands of like a great pilot. Having a card that just like prevent that deck from like actually playing the game is so important. It's not quite to the level as Sky Strikers, because like they do still consolidate their monsters, especially when they summon rank 4s. You can usually like bounce them or strike them or something, but man, that deck is so scary when it goes off. So I just wanted something going first that I could draw into and just hopefully stop like most of their combo from happening, or at the very least force like a Cosmic Cyclone so my other real trap cards actually had a chance to not just get blown up by like Twin Twisters or whatever, which is really cool. But Summon Limit, I only drew it that one time, like in the last round, game 2, and it didn't really matter. I had like the big combo set up regardless, and I had like 2 other back rows, so it didn't really matter. But it is, I think if Lunalight Orcus is going to remain popular, and it wasn't like the most popular thing at the YCS London, it was there and it did top, but it was if that deck becomes more and more popular, and if bigger combo decks come out, I mean there's like the Dragon Link deck is out there as well. They just got the new Secret Rare. If that deck's really popular, just having a card that you can flip and just make the matchup super easy is pretty helpful in some cases. If they draw the out, sometimes it happens, but it is it's better than just like a regular trap card against those decks if they don't actually have the Cosmic or the Twin Twisters. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Altergeists in new format. I think this deck's always gonna be strong whenever new balance happens. People just like don't know what they're doing. I wanted to play like other decks. I really considered playing like Zombies in celebration of Halloween, but I was really happy to get a second place. Get the cool mat, get another purple deck box here that I have another one of these as well. But it's I like this deck a lot, as you guys probably know, and I thought I made enough advancements for the new metagame that it was cool to show off. And thanks to all you guys that gave me support on Twitter. I posted earlier in the day that like the worst thing that happened was like a pen exploded in my pocket, and it ruined my shirt, the bottom of the shirt, it ruined my pants, it ruined like everything, and I was just, my hands were covered in ink for like an hour, and it was terrible. And I came through, and even though that horrible thing happened and I was just a mess, I still managed to get second place. That was pretty awesome. So thanks to all you guys that gave me support on Twitter. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this profile. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.